This after Water and Sanitation Minister Senzo Mchunu signed a Memorandum of Understanding with his Zimbabwean counterpart, Dr. Anxious Masuka, for the sale of treated water from Zimbabwe to a border town in northern Limpopo. The bilateral agreement signed on Thursday last week will see the supply of about 15 million cubic meters per annum of treated water from the Beitbridge Water Treatment Works in Zimbabwe to the Musina Local Municipality through a 20-kilometer pipeline. Now, Water and Sanitation Minister Senzo Mchunu joins us live now to talk more on this. Minister, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Let's just start, before we even get to viewer questions, but let's look at how this particular project will work at a practical level in terms of ensuring that it eases the water issues.
Yes, it will work. You will remember that in 2022, there was a protest in Musina, people complaining about lack of water supply in their areas for domestic use. On the other hand, we're in a conversation with the government of Limpopo regarding their water needs in their SZ in Makado, Musina. And we then said in response, there would be phase one in terms of comprehensive report. Phase one would be composed of one, the assessment and resuscitation of boreholes that were no longer functional along the banks of the river, that is Limpopo River. Some were actually right into the middle of the river, as it were, and there was also a pump that needed to be fixed. We did all that, although we're lagging a little bit behind now with regard to the resuscitation of the boreholes. There are 23 boreholes that are functional now, and 28 still need to be functionalized. But as part of that, we were to conclude the agreement between us and Zimbabwe, which would result into Zimbabwe supplying us with treated water to Musina, which would more than meet the demand of the people of Musina. And all of that has now happened. It's a question of us just making sure that in the interim we resuscitate the boreholes so that we increase the amount of or the volumes of water, ensuring that people have access to water in the meantime.
All right. And there are, of course, some water issues that we've seen in some parts of the country. We invited some of the viewers to ask some of their questions. Minister, I beg your indulgence. We're not going to take all of them, but I do hope that this is a continuous conversation we can have to try and answer some of the questions that our viewers have. And I wonder if we can bring up the first question, just so we can then be able to get an answer. Busiso saying, I would like to ask the Department of Water and Sanitation that why water is always only available in the evening, but during the day water is not available in Kagiso in the West Rand.
Well,
you can go ahead, Minister.
Yes, there is a worrying issue around Gauteng, and we started having a conversation with municipalities in Gauteng, including the 3 metros, as far back as September 2022, when we saw quite an increased, substantially increased usage of water or water demand, or we call it water demand increase in all the municipalities. That discussion ended in March in 2023, where we said there are a number of things that need to be done. Attend to your infrastructure, especially the 3 metros and all other municipalities. But this has a twin issue, and that is non-revenue water. Mm-hmm. As it stands now, supply of water to Gauteng and municipalities, and therefore to people, is affected by 2 things in the main. It is the state of their infrastructure currently, and the loss of water, which is far more than 30%. It's around 37, 33, 34. And as long as this thing persists, it's a problem. And what they have to do, and we're pushing very hard, and we're now wanting to assist, even to attract private sector into the infrastructure of Gauteng, because we don't have enough money to speedily upgrade infrastructure in Gauteng. That's why, among other things, we were meeting with Johannesburg, by the mayor and Johannesburg Water and Rand Water today at 6, just to make sure that we move on this matter. So we are insisting that let's repair, let's attend to our infrastructure in terms of size, but also in terms of stopping or making sure that we control the leaks into this system. So yes.
Minister, pardon me for coming in there, because you're talking about a very critical issue. Before we go back to the viewer questions, Rand Water and Joburg Water, you say there's a meeting tonight, but one then asks, because we see reports suggesting that a water valve may have been closed internally. These are allegations, of course, that have been leveled, and investigation is ensuing in that particular regard, and this has led to some of the supply issues we've seen in the city. So is that not sabotage? In your view, if that is true, how much of it are you contending with at that level?
We will know exactly when we meet at 6 o'clock for them to give us a proper report, and then we will be able to assess whether it is sabotage. But this is not the first time we come across allegations of sabotage and even damage, willful damage to property and infrastructure of water and sanitation. It has happened. Metros do report, and we do conclude all the time that they need to tighten up security in the infrastructure. They need to open up cases. They need to interact with the public so that the public is aware. In Swane, there is a matter that we need to attend jointly, where people who are not authorized have taken charge of a water reservoir somewhere in Midlands, in one of the regions of Swane. So these are the matters that are also on the side affecting us, apart from the two. But the two major issues: repair and upgrade your infrastructure such that it doesn't leak, but at the same time it meets the demand of the grown population. And once they do that, we'll go a long way in meeting the demand of the people of Gauteng.
So let's take another viewer question, and then we'll bank some others for our conversation as it continues. Then, and especially, it's going to be critical even after this meeting that you say you'll be having at 6 o'clock. And I wonder if we can then put up the second question. That's Sehwate Abshedi Tobela. Good evening, Me Zwane. Hi, and viewers around the globe and the SABC crew. I would like to ask the department, why do you guys wait for the worst to happen before you attend when we report?
Look, we don't wait for the worst to come. The Department of Water and Sanitation works with stakeholders who are water service authorities, like Johannesburg, like Ekurhuleni, like other municipalities in Gauteng. They have been authorized by COGTA and recognized as water service authorities, water and sanitation services. They are water and sanitation services authorities. Now, we are bound to work with them, and as per legislation, they handle all water services where through which you get water in your home. It's not done by Department of Water and Sanitation. We supply bulk, we supply Rand Water with raw water. They treat it, they then convey it to municipalities, and municipalities receive treated bulk, and then they reticulate it to our homes, to our businesses. Now, but we have not stopped there. We have now said because the situation of municipalities is worrying in terms of their capacity, we now have to work closer with them so that we don't stand apart and aside from them while there are all these problems. So we are working very much close with them now. This is why there are daily meetings that are looking at daily issues that crop up from time to time, but we know it comes down to Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, Tshwane, not having attended to their infrastructure over a long time. And now this infrastructure is now hardly able to hold water. Other people are saying, no, population in all these metros has increased. Now you need to increase the abstraction from the Vaal River for rainwater, and so that it's not an issue of scarcity of water from the Vaal to the system of rainwater and to the system of Gauteng municipalities. It is their ability to keep water that they receive from rainwater in their pipes up to households and through the taps. That is the major issue which we need to attend now.
All right. Minister, we'll continue then to, unpack some of the viewer questions in our next engagement. But briefly, before I let you go, is Lesotho still supplying South Africa with water?
Pardon?
Is Lesotho still supplying South Africa with water?
Yes, very much. I was in Lesotho in a meeting with my counterpart just this past Wednesday. It was just because of two matters which are not necessarily affecting the supply of water. We've built long ago 2 dams and a tunnel that supplies water to the integrated Vaal river system. Through phase 2, we've started building a 3rd dam called, now I forget the name of this dam, together with the tunnel. But it's a 3rd dam. We're on course on that dam. And we are still going to be building 2 more dams because the agreement in the treaty was for 3 dams. Now, it's Porihade Dam, I now recall. So we were just looking at other matters that are part of the treaty. And so in short, we're on course building that. But I need to take this opportunity and talk about a little about the repair and ordinary necessary work that needs to be done every 5 years in the tunnel by TCTA, which is an entity of ours that handles the tunnel and the dams. Now, every 5 years, they need to stop pumping. They need to attend to the internal workings of the tunnel, do repairs where necessary, monitor the functionality, monitor everything. Now, recently, it has been determined that there are certain damages that are inside. They're just damages of that go with wear and tear of some parts of the tunnel. It would require 6 months to get things back to their position and the functionality of the tunnel up to the standard. Now, there are other people who are now beginning to say water supply to the Vaal River system will be heavily affected at that time, resulting into shortage. There is none that will happen. October is a rainy season. It will start when the dam itself, the Vaal River Dam, will be full, and it won't be affected by the stoppage for 6 months. But in case anything happens, there is a dam called Serfontein in Harrismith, which pumps water to the Vaal River system, to the Vaal Dam, in other words. That dam is full.
All right.
And therefore, our assessment is that water supply to Gauteng won't be affected in the 6 months during which there would be attention to the tunnel.
I'm sure, Minister, you'll agree that these, this is an issue that needs unpacking over time. Some of the viewer questions, we are still going to get to them. And I do beg your indulgence that you come back again on the show and we finish some of the other viewer questions, because this is quite an important issue. And especially when you talk about some of the metros as well that are not maintaining their infrastructure, it is now also up to us to also speak to them and get some of their responses. But thank you so much for your time. That is Water and Sanitation Minister Senzo Mchunu. We'll continue to take your comments. We've noted them, and we are simply not going to do away with them. We are going to be getting you some of the answers to some of your questions around the water issues.